Next, from Springfield, we attend the inauguration ceremony for Illinois Supreme Court Justice Lloyd Karmeier as he becomes Chief Justice of the court. This runs about 40 minutes.
Good afternoon. I'm Rita Garman, and I am very excited to be here today because this is a very exciting day for Justice Karmeier, his family, and for the 900-plus members of the Illinois judiciary, as he is installed as the 120th Chief Justice of the Illinois Supreme Court. I am honored to have this opportunity to preside and the opportunity to speak in recognition of my colleague and my good friend. It seems that Justice Karmeier may have been destined for great things from the very beginning. His roots run deep in Southern Illinois, so deep that he even has a brick from the Supreme Court when the courthouse was located in Southern Illinois in the early days of our statehood. Like Illinois' most admired citizen Abraham Lincoln, he attended a one-room grade school, obviously not in the same year. And he later became, importantly, a double Illini, earning his bachelor's degree and his law degree from the University of Illinois, my alma mater, too. He is deeply devoted to his alma mater and is a great fan of the Fighting Illini, as you all know. He's shared with his colleagues his first job out of law school in 1964 was as a law clerk to Supreme Court Justice Byron O. House, the only other native of Washington County to serve as a Chief Justice of this court. He also shared with us the background of this story. While he was still in law school, he clerked for Champaign attorney Gay Knappenberger. Mr. Knappenberger explained to him that he wasn't looking for an associate to join his practice, so he's only looking for a clerk while the time Justice Karmeier was in law school. Well, as Justice Karmeier neared graduation, he was offered the clerkship with Justice House, only to have Mr. Knappenberger offer him a job with his law firm. Justice Karmeier recently pointed out that had he taken that offer and remained in Champaign-Urbana to practice law, he and I could have ended up running for the same seat on the Illinois Supreme Court. I'm sure glad he went back to Nashville. One of the things I admire most about Justice Karmeier is his ability to make and keep lifelong friends. One example of this is his relationship with Clarence DeMoss. When he clerked for Justice House, Mr. DeMoss was a senior law clerk, and he mentored the young lawyer. Later, Justice Karmeier went to work for the law firm of Holt House, DeMoss, and Johnson, where Clarence DeMoss was again his mentor. Fast forward to 2004, when Justice Karmeier was elected to the Supreme Court. Well, his friend and mentor, Clarence DeMoss, came out of retirement to clerk for his former protege. It says a lot about a person that he makes friends who are so loyal and so dedicated. Of course, their mutual love of the Illini may have had something to do with their bond. Mr. DeMoss was also a double Illini, and he played running back for the team that beat Stanford in the Rose Bowl in 1952, when Lloyd Karmeier was 12 years old. As many of you know, I've known Justice Karmeier for many years, and I've been his colleague on the Supreme Court for the past 12 years. In all this time, he's never changed. He's a warm and caring person, and these characteristics have always been evident from both his out-of-court behavior and his in-court demeanor. When he came to the court in 2004, he brought not only his excellent judicial temperament, but his knowledge based on a wide range of experience from serving as a law clerk in both the state and federal courts, working as a state's attorney, being engaged in the general practice of law, and spending years as a circuit court judge. All of this experience has been invaluable while addressing the wide variety of issues that come before this court. He also brought something else to us. He had a ping pong table installed in the basement of the Supreme Court, and he invited, or maybe challenged us to come down and play ping pong. I have to tell you, I was smart enough not to go down and take him up on that challenge, because I haven't found anybody that beat him. He's also one of the hardest working and most thoughtful people I know. At oral argument, he asks insightful questions that have the potential to shed a new light on the issues being presented. He writes thoughtful and well-reasoned opinions. One of his greatest attributes as a justice on this court is his willingness to collaborate. He graciously offers suggestions to each of us to improve our opinions, and he can just as graciously accept our criticisms of his writings. These traits will serve him well as he undertakes the varied responsibilities of Chief Justice. He has wisely said that his goals as Chief Justice are to make the judicial branch more efficient, effective, and accessible. I certainly will do all I can to support him in this effort. I leave you with the words of the great 16th century philosopher, statesman, and jurist Francis Bacon. Judges ought to be more learned than witty, more reverent than plausible, and more advised than confident. Above all things, integrity is their portion and proper virtue. Above all else, Lloyd Karmeier is a man of integrity, and I'm privileged to call him my colleague and my friend, and I hope you'll join me in congratulating him on this milestone. Now I'm privileged to call on my colleague, Justice Ann Burke, to offer remarks.
I shall. And I did challenge Justice Karmeier to a ping pong game, but he was playing golf with Justice Thomas that day, so he demurred for another time, which we still haven't done it yet. But Chief Justice Karmeier, your colleagues and I truly congratulate you upon installation to your 3-year term as our leader, the first among equals. The court frequently refers to itself as we the court. This does not only apply to the current 7 justices of the court, but also to the 109 previous members who have served on this court since 1818. And it is interesting that Illinois is the only state in the nation which has a geographically representative Supreme Court. This diversity in the makeup of our court ensures that no one area of the state can monopolize the court. The balance between rural Illinois, urban Cook County, and suburban Collier counties means that the justices come from very different backgrounds. It is inevitable that the judges' different professional life and life experiences will have some bearing on how we confront various legal issues which come before us. Still, while we may disagree on certain matters, as evidenced by dissenting opinions, the court speaks with one voice and as a unit, not as individuals. And because we all live together upstairs on the 3rd floor in the courthouse during terms of the court, by the way, we are only one of 2 states to reside together during term. Missouri is the other one. There is a remarkable collegiality among us that permits us to disagree without being disagreeable. We've even traveled together and seen theater together. Today we give honor to Lloyd Karmeier, a man who shares, as Justice Garmon says, our collegial background, but who also has a unique personal story which will benefit him in his role as Chief Justice. He is steeped in history and tradition and is a man of the earth. Lloyd A. Karmeier was raised from the earth, being born on a farm in Washington County. He grew up near the old site of Covington, which was the county seat in 1831, but now no longer exists as a town. And when his family farmed there in the 1940s, the old village was clearly demarked by trees and mounds of earth and the original brick, as Justice Garmon has mentioned, of the county courthouse was absolutely found there later. Most of that county seat is now gone, but Lloyd and his staff traveled to the site in late 2005 and recovered some of the broken bricks from the old courthouse, which he now keeps in his Nashville chambers. That old courthouse was the one in which John Reynolds, one of the first justices of the Illinois Supreme Court, presided while performing circuit court duties. And there's actually a legend. In those days, the sheriff would open the Washington County Circuit Court by proclaiming, "Boys, the court is now open. John is on the bench." I trust that Justice Karmeier truly demanded more dignity when he presided in the same county 107 years later. Now, those salvaged bricks serve as a memento of Chief Justice Karmeier's physical connection to the ground he lived on and tilled, but also the role and importance of justice in the frontier communities of Illinois. His interest in legal history runs deep because of his literal and figurative roots in Washington County and the state of Illinois. Justice Karmeier's education began in a one-room schoolhouse, as Justice Garment has said. He graduated valedictorian from Oakville, is that it? Oakville High School, and went on to graduate, as you know, from the University of Illinois for his undergraduate, and also attended the University of Illinois Law School, where it was during that time he met the love of his life, his future wife, Mary. Their first meeting was a blind date. He took her to a bar association, not just a bar, but a bar association, but a bar association cocktail party where the drinks were 3 for $1. And Mary tells me he's still just as frugal. I understand that he was late picking her up for their date. Yet Mary must have seen something special in him, because that would be the first of many legal events Mary would attend with Chief Justice Karmeier over the course of their marriage. And on October 2nd of this year, they celebrated their 51st wedding anniversary. Now, Justice Garment explained all the different law firms that Justice Karmeier was with, and when he Chief Justice Karmeier became to this court, a member of this court, he reached his own personal background and asked his mentor, Clarence DeMoss, to be his law clerk. DeMoss, of course, demurred at the time, but agreed a few years later. DeMoss had begun clerking for Justice Byron House of Nashville in 1957. And later, he took the newly licensed Lloyd Karmeier under his wing. DeMoss clerked for 20 years, and he was, according to Karmeier, my mentor, my law partner, and good trusted friend. So how appropriate that DeMoss would return to the chambers of Justice Lloyd Karmeier in 2007, when the professional lives of these two men would complete full circle. Chief Justice Karmeier currently resides in Nashville, a small town of about 3,300 people, and the county seat of Washington County. It is there that he and Mary raised their 2 daughters, and it is where they enjoy spending many hours with their grandchildren. It seems that Nashville and Washington County are an excellent breeding ground for justices. Chief Justice Karmeier is the 4th lawyer from Washington County to serve on the Illinois Supreme Court. Justice Byron House and Justice Ralph Maxwell both hailed from Nashville, and Justice June Smith was born in Irvington, just 10 miles northeast of Nashville. And if you really include the United States Supreme Court, there is a 5th justice who was born in Nashville, Justice Harry Blackmun, who served on the United States Supreme Court from 1970 to 1994. Blackmun grew up in Minnesota, however, but spent many summers in Nashville visiting his grandparents. Our new Chief Justice bears the Washington County pedigree. He respects and honors the traditions of the history of the court. He respects and honors his own personal background, and he respects and honors his colleagues. To put it simply, Lloyd Karmeier is the salt of the earth. Chief Justice Karmeier, we congratulate you on becoming the 120th Chief Justice of the Illinois Supreme Court. May God continue to bless you, Mary, your children and grandchildren with good health, success, joy, and peace in the years ahead.
Now we want to hear from our colleague, Justice Robert Thomas.
Thank you, Chief Justice Garment. So far we have heard references to ping pong, golf, travel, and theater. And I want to assure the people in attendance that in just a few minutes, Justice Karmeier will be sworn in as Chief Justice and not Chief Camp Counselor. So it's truly an honor and a privilege to be here for the installation of my dear friend Lloyd Karmeier as the 120th Chief Justice of the Illinois Supreme Court. I've had the pleasure of knowing Lloyd since 2004 when he first joined the court. In the intervening 12 years, he and I have grown from strangers to colleagues to true friends. Indeed, my wife Maggie and I count Lloyd and Mary as dear friends, and on many occasions we have enjoyed their company over dinner or a drink. On one such occasion, Maggie mentioned that she and I share what we call our daily wine time. This is an hour or so that we set aside at the end of each day to be together, to share a glass of wine, and to debrief and catch up about the day. And the one ironclad rule for this time, imposed by Maggie, and a true challenge for me, is absolutely no electronics. No phones, no iPads, just conversation and each other. Well, after learning about wine time from Maggie, the Karmeiers liked the idea and decided to institute it for themselves. And so it was that a few weeks later, I received a text from Lloyd. It read, "Enjoying wine time with Mary," and it included a photo of 2 glasses of wine sitting side by side. And immediately after that text came another text from Lloyd. And if you are looking at this during wine time with Maggie, shame on you, you shouldn't be. That little story captures so much about who Lloyd Karmeier is. First of all, it is funny, and Lloyd's sense of humor is always on display and something all of us on the court routinely enjoy. Second, it is wise. Though delivered in the form of a lighthearted joke, Lloyd's message was also one of wise and encouraging counsel. Knowing that I was, as my wife Maggie puts it, still in training on the rules and etiquette of wine time, Lloyd's message was a safe and gentle reminder to me to keep my eye on the ball and to remember what's important. And lastly, Lloyd's message was, to use an old-fashioned phrase, gentlemanly. For even as that little text was looking out for me, all the more so it was looking out for my wife, Maggie. The act of a true gentleman, which is appropriate because if there is one word that is used most often by the members of this court to describe Lloyd, it is gentlemanly. Lloyd's paramount concern, always and in all things, is for the other person. I have never once known Lloyd to put his needs or his agenda ahead of someone else's. He has never betrayed a desire or need to win at all costs, and he is always looking for ways to serve those around him. In this sense, Lloyd is perhaps the least competitive person I know, because he is never concerned about making sure he wins. He is only ever concerned about helping others to win, which is an intensely competitive, with an intensely competitive person like myself, I can find both inspiring and challenging. I'm not kidding. There have been many, many times on the golf course as our round is drawing to a close and we're in a close race to the finish that I find myself actually rooting for Lloyd to beat me. Because the thought of doing that himself simply never would occur to Lloyd. That is who Lloyd Karmeier is, and that is why we are blessed to have him serving as our next Chief Justice. He has the heart and spirit of a servant, and he will serve this court and the people of this state well. We have seen this already in the thoughtfulness and fair-mindedness of Lloyd's judicial writing, and we have seen it especially in the discipline and skill that he brings to his administrative responsibilities. In his recent work as liaison to the ARDC, the MCLE Board, and the Supreme Court Committee on Criminal Jury Instructions, Lloyd has demonstrated levels of efficiency, attentiveness, and effectiveness that are rarely seen in the complex world of judicial bureaucracy. And I am certain that Lloyd will bring these same gifts to this work as Chief Justice, where he will now serve as the Chief Administrative Officer, not just of a few committees, but of the entire Illinois judicial branch. I have complete confidence that we are in very good hands. And if anyone doubts that Lloyd possesses a true gift for planning, foresight, and administration, consider this. I have it on very good authority that of the more than 900 judges who have served in this great state of Illinois, Lloyd, and only Lloyd, maintains a working, productive farm at the office. This is absolutely true. Every spring and every fall, Lloyd drives his tractor to his Nashville chambers to till the soil. And with the able assistance of his staff, he plants and harvests a generous crop of lettuce, squash, cucumbers, radishes, and sweet corn. And why, you may ask, does Lloyd do this? Why does he keep a farm at the office? I asked the same question. And I was told by someone well-positioned to know that this little farm is Lloyd's hedge in case the budget crisis is never resolved. That, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly who I want presiding over the judicial branch of this state. In closing, Lloyd, I would like to offer you the same benediction that I gave Chief Justice Garmon 3 years ago as she stood in the very same place that you will be standing. Lloyd, each of us here knows that you have already proven yourself worthy of the office you are about to enter. And so my prayer for you is that with God's help and with the support of your family, your friends, and your colleagues, you would continue to exercise and exert the very same wisdom, integrity, and character that has led you so rightly to this place, to this office, to this moment. May God guide you as you lead this court, as you lead the judicial branch of the state, and as you continue to serve the people of Illinois. God bless you, and congratulations, Lloyd. And at this time, Chief Justice Garmon, would you now do all of us the honor of coming forward and administering the oath of office to our next Chief Justice? What's that? Move it down.
Raise your right hand. Repeat after me.
I, Lloyd Karmeier,
Do solemnly affirm
solemnly affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of Chief Justice
of Chief Justice
of the Supreme Court
of the Supreme Court
of the State of Illinois
of the State of Illinois
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Chief.
This chair is bigger than mine.
This chair's lower than that one.
Where to begin? I have prepared remarks, but listening to my colleagues say some very nice and some very kind things, I shared with my family earlier that I was going to ask them to say some kind things and be brief, and they said, well, if we're going to say kind things, it has to be brief. I truly appreciate the comments of all and the support of all of my colleagues on the bench. It's been a wonderful experience for me coming from Covington in Washington County to be able to join my colleagues on this bench and now to help lead them the next 3 years. To Justice Garmon, to members of the court, members of the General Assembly, my friends, family, and some golfers who decided to attend today, Today marks a moment of transition. In this transition, I'm wearing a robe that goes back many years. It is a robe worn by Justice Byron O. House of the Illinois Supreme Court. And it was made available to me on the day that I was sworn in here in 2004. I wore it that day. I wore it for my first oral argument on the bench, and I wear it when I swear in new lawyers. Other than that, it's retired. But I mean to honor Justice House for his mentorship, his guidance, along with Clarence DeMoss and other members of my firm with whom I practice, by wearing this robe in remembrance. With the oath that I've just taken, the responsibilities of Chief Justice now pass from Justice Garmon to me, just as 3 years ago they passed from Justice Kilbride to Justice Garmon. And just as 3 years from now, they'll pass on to the next Chief Justice. For the court as an institution, this transition is really a matter of routine. Since our state first entered the Union in 1818, as has been indicated, this is the 120th time a new Chief Justice has been designated, and it's been done without any television advertising, without any mail solicitation, without any rancor or anything else that goes on in the political scene. In fact, the transfer of this position is so commonplace that it merits little attention outside the legal community. So I'm especially gratified by the number of people that are here today and that have joined us in this ceremony. For the individual men and women fortunate enough to be given the title of Chief Justice, and certainly for me, the transition is anything but routine. No one could stand here or sit in this position without being profoundly moved. As a good friend of mine recently said about his family, I made a good decision when I chose my parents. I would add to that, I made a good decision when I chose my siblings, my children, and my grandchildren. But of course, the only real decision I had was in the choosing of my wife, Mary, over 51 years ago. That decision is still my proudest and best. Gratitude for my family, for my parents, does begin with my parents, who were born in rural Washington County, Illinois, in 1908. And in 1908, the same year this courthouse was designated. And in 1908, Justice Tice, what happened in 1908?
Maybe it'll come again this year.
Yeah. This may be the year that the Cubs win the World Series. I received an email from a college classmate friend of mine who said, in 1908, my grandfather was a law student at the University of Chicago. The Cubs won the World Series. This year, my grandson is a law student at the University of Chicago. So we Cardinal fans wish the Cubs well. But I'll have to say, it's not nearly as much fun without them being there. I do want to say for myself and my siblings about our parents, how much we appreciated their faith in us, how much I wish that they could have been here along with our youngest sister, Kay, to share this get-together with the family and friends. I tell this story often today, but I'll share only a shortened version because some part of it has already been alluded to. My dad and his brother started farming the land in Covington, which happened to have been the site of the very first courthouse in Washington County. A session of the circuit court presided over by Justice John Reynolds was called in March of 1819. And my father used to say that the Supreme Court used to sit here, and I thought he was stretching the truth, quite frankly. So, but it was true, and I would say that my father could not possibly have imagined when back in 1946 he ran his plow through the broken bits of brick, which were all that remained of that old brick courthouse, that one of his children would be sitting here as Chief Justice of the Illinois Supreme Court. I also want to express my appreciation to Mary, to my daughters, to my grandchildren, to my brothers and sisters for their support through the years, their surprise at my being here, of course, and for their for coming in today. I think, you know, sometimes you've heard the story, people go to funerals just to make sure that the guy is in the coffin and is dead. I think they just want to make sure that I was really doing this. But they've all been a source of strength and support for me throughout the years, and we all still get together at least a couple of times a year, which is an amazing thing to do when we consider we're spread out from Pagosa Springs, Colorado, to Kansas City, to Chesterfield, Missouri, and now our daughter just moved, took our granddaughter along to Littleton, Colorado, or Lone Tree, Colorado. Mary and I have been through some unexpectedly tough times in coming to this court, in staying on this court 2 years ago, and in doing the work of the court. It has strengthened both of us and has made us closer. For that, I thank you and for your unwavering faith in me, in my honesty, and in my integrity. Now, 8 years ago, as a part of the initiative to improve the performance of Illinois judges and to build public confidence in the state's courts, the Supreme Court adopted a formal statement of expectation for judges. The statement is now provided to every judge in the state, and it makes this declaration. Within the American system of government, courts sit in the unique position of delivering fair and impartial justice. Judicial independence is the embodiment of those sustaining principles necessary for an impartial judiciary. The single greatest threat to the continued viability of our system of ordered justice is the erosion of judicial independence. Critical to an independent judiciary is the public's trust and confidence in the men and women who don the robes, interpret our laws, and who seek to fairly administer justice. Our judiciary represents far more than the sum of its adjudicative decisions. As judges, it becomes our responsibility to enhance the public's trust and to foster in the citizenry an unfaltering sense of confidence. For all that the concept of judicial independence embodies and protects, it must never be invoked as a shield for our failures to uphold the Constitution, to fairly administer the law, or adhere to the strong values of the society in which we work and live. Our independence is made secure when all judges, as stewards of the public trust, individually and collectively, remain faithful to the words in the oath that we have taken and accountable to those whom we have sworn to serve. That accountability is reflected daily in a strong work ethic, a high level of judicial competence, and an unwavering devotion to the high office that we hold. The public's expectation that justice will, in fact, be rendered, that every judgment is grounded on the proper application of existing laws to the facts as presented, is vital to the engendering confidence in our court system and institutional respect for our judiciary. In meeting this expectation, we strengthen the public trust and build upon our heritage of an honorable and independent judiciary. Now, while that declaration is relatively new, the principles it expresses have guided me throughout my career on the bench. I promise that they will continue to guide me, as I hope they guide every Illinois judge, and now as I undertake the responsibilities of Chief Justice. Before closing, I want to say to each of my colleagues on the court, thank you. Thank you for your individual and your collective wisdom. Thank you for your advice and your counsel, freely and willingly given, whether sought or not. Thank you for your collegiality and your friendship, and especially thank you for your support when support was needed and appreciated. You all hold a very special place in my life and in my heart. Finally, I would like to offer special thanks to the members of the court who preceded me in the office of Chief Justice during the 12 years since I joined the court. In 2004, Justice McMorrow, who is no longer with us, Justice Thomas, who was very much with us, Justice Fitzgerald, who passed last year, Justice Kilbride, and Justice Garmon. I was not on the court when Justice Freeman was the Chief Justice, but each of them have set a tone of collegiality, cooperation, and civility that I will strive to follow. I am honored to serve, and I look forward to the years to come. I want to thank all of you for joining us here today. I am humbled and honored by your presence, and there will be a reception immediately following this. One other thing I just want to direct to my children and grandchildren. Did you hear the nice things they said about me? This is your grandpa speaking. We have, Mary and I have been truly blessed. The children have been living near us, and the grandchildren have until Christy, our oldest, moved to Colorado just very recently. But it's good that they all came back. We have a granddaughter that graduated this year, is taking her CPA. We have two grandsons that are freshmen in college. We have a granddaughter that's a freshman in high school. We have a 7th grader and a 6th grader here, and they all came in and they administered the oath. I especially appreciate the remarks of Justices Garmon, retired Justice Rarick, thank you, Justice Burke, and Justice Thomas. They obviously drew the short straws and who had to speak. The court is really almost like a family to me, and it was Justice Tom Fitzgerald who said, you know, it's a lot like going to college. You sit in class during the day here, and we listen to lawyers, bright lawyers, lecture us. We go back and we eat dinner together, and then we go back to our rooms and study. And then the next day we do the same thing over and over again. But with the colleagues that I have, with the support that I've received, with the interest that everyone has that the court do a good job and that people be made aware of their interest, it's been a truly delightful and enjoyable experience. I want to thank my brother Dell for the very nice invocation, my grandchildren for leading us in the pledge, and for all of you for being here, and I'll look forward to talking with each of you in the reception to follow. Marshall, I think we're adjourned.
You're watching the Illinois Channel, an independent nonprofit corporation formed to provide gavel-to-gavel coverage of Illinois state government and other public affairs events taking place across Illinois.